Welcome along, everyone, to today's MLI information session. I can see that there's a number of you from around the world, actually, from America, Europe, Singapore. Okay, that's great. Yeah, welcome along. So my name is Jeff Brown, and I've been responsible for these kind of programs for over 20 years. So I've been involved in the CFA, the FRM, the CQF, the PRM, KIA, ARPM, all of them. And I got involved with the MLI, specifically with WBS Training, who run the MLI and QDC programs. And the reason why I decided to join them is because of the sheer practicality of these programs. We're focusing obviously on the MLI today. It's incredibly applied. You'll get hopefully a sense of that by the end of this presentation. I genuinely think this is in a league of its own, this program. It's phenomenal. The faculty on the program, we'll get into a little bit of detail on who the faculty is. They are world renowned, a lot of them. Paul himself, I'll introduce you to Paul in just a second. But I'm really proud to be a part of this program, and I hope that by the end of the information session, you get an idea of the usefulness of the program insofar as machine learning is concerned. Okay, so this is what we're going to take you through during this presentation. I'll give you a brief introduction to the MLI Head of Faculty, Dr. Paul Billiken. We'll talk about what exactly the MLI is, why it's useful, what's so beneficial about it. We'll talk about the accreditation and partnerships that we've generated over the years, the candidate profiles, in other words, what kind of background you need to have. Paul will take you through the syllabus. He'll break down the syllabus in a lot of detail. We'll also talk about the MLI faculty, the study partner program, the MLI forum or help desk, and we'll finish with a Q&A session. Okay, so who is Paul? I suspect that almost all of you know who he is. He's Quant of the Year. He was educated at Oxford University, currently lectures at Imperial College to PhD level. He was involved in the banking sector for a very long time, about 17 years. He started off as a quant, then became a quant trader, and then moved into a position as a director. He is the founder of Thalessians, which is a phenomenal group that put on a lot of events. They have done for quite a number of years, a lot of, literally thousands of members. If you don't know who they are, check them out on LinkedIn and check out what kind of events that they put on as well. He was or is also professor lecturer of mathematics for computer science at Imperial College. So what exactly is the MLI, the Machine Learning Institute Certificate? It's a 7-month program. It is, there are weekly lectures, live weekly lectures, 1 or 2 lectures each week. On the odd occasion, you have 3 lectures a week. It's comprised of level 1 and level 2, which includes 5 primers, which you do before the start of the program. There are 8 modules lasting approximately 1 month each, probably a little bit less than a month each. 32 lecture weeks. There are very practical assignments. There's a final project which you can do in relation to your current job role or whatever it is that you're currently studying. And there's a final exam which can be taken from anywhere in the world. The MLI faculty, I'll take you through in a little bit more detail shortly. This is important. So candidates work with hands-on assignments designed to illustrate the algorithms studied and to experience firsthand the practical challenges involved in the design and successful implementation of ML models. That sums it up perfectly, to be honest. That is really what the Machine Learning Institute certificate is about. As I mentioned, it is extremely applied. It is very practical. And what that means is that you're going to be, of course, learning a little bit about the theory, but you'll also be doing a lot of implementation during the course of the 7 months as well. So these are the benefits. It does benefit your career insofar as your climb up the ladder of this sector is concerned. Well, this sector, whether it's the banking sector or any other sector involved with machine learning. This program focuses primarily on machine learning in finance. You can qualify from anywhere in the world. The lectures are streamed live over the web, worldwide, obviously. Lectures viewable anytime from anywhere. It is practitioner oriented. So it's not only developed and taught by highly experienced practitioners, but also academics, authors as well. It's all led by Paul. They're all specialists in machine learning. There's a lifelong learning benefit to this program as well, insofar as we run additional webinars for both the Machine Learning Institute certificate and the Quantitative Developer certificate. And once you're enrolled, you have access to all future MLI programs. Once you're enrolled, there is also no additional cost for anything. Okay, so for any additional lectures or webinars that we bring to the fore, they're usually very topical. So whenever there's a piece of news that's extremely topical and worth talking about, then Paul gets together with some members of the MLI faculty or some of his colleagues at Thilesians, and they talk about whatever it is that's out there at the moment. So these are the accreditors and partnerships. It's CPD certified, which is extremely important. I think it's really a badge of authenticity and legitimacy. NTT Data is a phenomenal partner, which I'm sure the majority of you have heard of. If you haven't checked them out, NAG, I'm sure you've all heard of NAG, the NAG library, which is world famous. Thilesians, which I've already spoken to you about as well. So these are some of our partners who we're proud to be associated with. Okay, so the faculty is led by Paul. His very, very able assistant is Ivan Zdankin. And I'll take you through some of the other members of faculty as well. We've got Alexander Sokol, who is, well, he's a quant of the year. He received his PhD from the LD Landau Institute for Theoretical Physics, incredibly at the age of 22. He is also executive chairman and head of quant research at Compatible. They're a trading and risk technology company. He's also the co-founder of Numerics. He won the Quant of the Year award in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, with Leif Anderson and Michael Picton. These guys are also, our contacts with a lot of the sort of big famous AI and ML experts in the world. Are also part of our annual quant conference, which took place last week, actually, in Cannes. We called it the Cannes Quant Festival, which was amazing. It was absolutely brilliant. There were so many names involved. You can see who was involved in that on our website. And if you want to come along next year, you're more than welcome. So Alexander Sokol, Matthew Dixon, was voted buy-side quant of the year. and he lectures on Module 1, which is supervised learning. He focuses particularly on Bayesian modeling. He also lectures on Model 3, on unsupervised learning and alternative data, with a particular focus on PCA and autoencoders. And he lectures on Module 5, on reinforcement learning for market making and wealth management. Again, Paul will take you through these modules in more detail. Terry Benchwell, he's a world-renowned author, also an academic and a market practitioner. He delivers a number of lectures on deep learning, focusing particularly on machine learning and the perceptron, backpropagation, optimization and regularization, and neural networks in banking and finance. If you haven't read any of his books and you're interested in this space in general, it's definitely worth reading his books. They are brilliant. Blanca Horvath, hopefully you've all heard of her. She was voted Rising Star in Quant Finance about 4 years ago. And well, she's very much a star in her own right now. She's an incredible lecturer. She really is. I saw her again. I saw her last week at the annual Quant conference in Cannes, and it was incredible. The feedback was amazing. She spent many years as a practitioner in the financial markets and now works at Imperial and also at the Oxford Mann Institute of Quant Finance and at Oxford University. She lectures on Module 2 and Module 7. I won't go into which topic areas those consist of because Paul will take you through that a little bit later. Saeed Aman, very famous author. His career spans many years in the banking sector and in academia. He co-founded the Thilesians with Paul, and he teaches on unsupervised learning and alternative data. Francesca Lazzeri, world-renowned for her work at Microsoft, as well as being an incredible author. She teaches the vast majority of Module 6. David Foster, another amazing author. I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, but honestly, he really is. Check out his books. He's a brilliant author on generative deep learning. Very successful market practitioner. He has been for many years, and he delivers in the penultimate module 7. Jacques Jacquier, very, very highly regarded, this guy. He's currently senior quant consultant at Lloyd's Banking Group. He's also a research fellow at the world-renowned Alan Turing Institute. He's director of the MSc in Maths and Finance at Imperial. And he delivers the entirety of the final module 8. So hopefully that covers some of the faculty. There are, of course, plenty of others here as well. So where did the delegates come from in general with the MLI? It is a global community. A lot of the delegates are based in Europe and the Americas, and students have come from over 60 countries worldwide. So this is really important. Essentially, your background needs to cover one of these profiles, either your professional background or your academic background. And what we would strongly recommend is that if you're not working in one of these areas, or if you're not studying in one of these areas, then this program will almost certainly go over your head. And it's just it won't be for you if you don't have one of these backgrounds. These are some of the employers from which delegates enroll onto the program: JP Morgan, Lloyds, BNP Paribas, Citi, Adia. There's a lot more, but these are the ones that we could fit on this particular slide. There are, well, all of the big banks, the US banks, the European banks, the Asian banks, they all, there are delegates from all of those banks who enroll into this program. Some of the banks don't allow us to put their logo on these slides, hence they're not on there. But anyway, this gives you an idea. So the M&I journey, well, it starts here with this information session, and the whole objective really is to acquire as much information as you possibly can about this program. And this should give you a really thorough overview of what this is all about. This is being recorded, so if you do want to re-watch the session, in order to, I think it's important just to acquire as much knowledge as possible about the program before making a decision. So you've got a really thorough platform from which to make your decision. If you make the decision to enroll, you then apply online via registration form. You can also send me an email with questions or requesting details about the application process. The admissions team will confirm acceptance. We say within 3 working days. It's normally much quicker than that. It's normally very prompt, actually, usually within 24 hours. You then start the MLI primers, including the algorithmic trading and Python primers. You'll receive a full set of course materials and textbooks before the start of the program, and then you start in November. I've mentioned this already. You've got 8 modules, lectures, online seminars, obviously, and student faculty forum, which I'll come to later. There's an online test at the end of each module, and there's a final unseen written exam at the end of the final module, followed by the final project. And literally that project is a way of implementing everything that you've learned on the program in a very practical way. And if you can, make it relevant to the role that you're currently working in, if it is in this space, obviously. Otherwise, make it relevant to the role that you want to work in, so that you could potentially present that to other employers. Okay, at this stage, I will hand you over to the inimitable Dr. Paul Billiken. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeff. I would like to mention that today I'm joined by one of the faculty members, so the list of faculty that you see is not actually complete, and the reason for that is that the MLAI scene is constantly changing, and we keep track of what's happening, and we always bring on board people who are knowledgeable in the latest and greatest technology and approaches. So today I'm joined by a member of our faculty, Abir Sridi, who is also here. Hopefully, if the layout works, you can see her as well. I'll briefly mention her background. So Abir has an MSc in AI from Imperial College London, as well as an MSc in Modeling and Mathematical Methods in Economy and Finance from La Sorbonne, that is Paris 1. She also holds a PhD with honors in financial modeling, focused on Monte Carlo methods and volatility smile modeling in a multidimensional framework, also from La Sorbonne, Paris 1, and has worked as a research associate in the Department of Mathematics of King's College London with Professor Damiano Briga in relation to multivariate mixtures of distributions. And if you're interested in some of her research work, then you can find, for example, some examples on her SSRN page. And it's a pleasure to welcome you all. Now, you will see that a lot of faculty members have absolutely stellar academic backgrounds. I will mention that you do not necessarily have to have a PhD to do this course. And in fact, it's not uncommon. I mean, you do need, as Jeff has pointed out, some finance knowledge, but it is not uncommon for people to come to this area, and also the general AI research from other technical areas, such as, for example, if you follow DeepMind, you will know that David Silver, one of the leading researchers at DeepMind, one of the co-inventors of reinforcement learning, some of the latest approaches to reinforcement learning, came, for example, from software development background. So it's not impossible to somehow transition to this area from other relevant technical backgrounds. It probably does not apply if your background is, say, entirely in humanities and you have never done any mathematical work, and then it could be overwhelming for you. So let me just mention a few things. So We start with live lectures. There are 2 live lectures per week, each of them. It takes roughly 1.5 to 2 hours, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. And those lectures are recorded. You also have core lectures such as the primers. So if you want to refresh your mathematics or your derivatives pricing, you will have access to recorded primers, and you can just watch them, because we don't necessarily want to waste too much time sort of re-delivering the background material, something that you can watch in recorded form. There are assignments. They're not marked, they're not graded. There are basically, every lecturer can give you some example assignments that you can do. But there are also module tests that consist of multiple choice questions. And you need to basically pass those module tests to proceed. And then at the end, there is an exam, which is also multiple choice, and it follows the same pattern as the module tests. The materials are based on real-world examples. There are numerous case studies, and there are also numerous exercises. In addition to what's in the syllabus, we also organize ad hoc webinars and sometimes in-person seminars that you're welcome to attend. And we invite some of the leading lecturers in their respective fields, so you can learn from them as well. And this is why this course always, by construction, stays at the state of the art. Before I go through the program, I wanted to ask Abir if she has something to tell you as well. Maybe she wants to tell you something about the course, or just perhaps greet you as potential students on this course. So let me therefore ask Abir to unmute herself.
Yeah, hello everyone. So yeah, so it's a pleasure to meet you today. So I'm in charge of the Python lectures that are pre-recorded lectures. Also, I will teach you about the reproducibility and deployment of data science workflow. So yeah, so I'd like just to maybe talk about what makes the MLI different from other courses. So so it's really a unique course because it focuses specifically on quantitative finance, and also it blends theoretical machine learning concepts with real-world financial applications. And the course so covers practical assignments and case studies that directly prepare you to, let's say, implement machine learning in your work environment. So, and it's also one of the most comprehensive and structured certification available in this area. Yeah, so as per said, you don't, need to have a PhD to follow this course, but yeah, but anyway, I think that also the program includes primers to get you up to speed, but I believe that having many quantitative background is maybe also beneficial, but it's not must anyway. So you will learn about everything during this course. So so yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions too. So
excellent, thank you very much, Abir. Jeff, would it be possible to move to the next slide, because I don't have control of the slides at the moment?
Sure. There we go.
So Abir has just been discussing some of the MLI primers, including mathematics for machine learning, financial derivatives and risk, algorithmic trading, Python for data science and AI, advanced Python techniques. So some of these, I believe, are pre-recorded. I don't know how many of them we actually deliver online. but I think but the point is, when you come in, you basically have to do these primers. If you are not familiar with this material, if you are familiar, then you are welcome to skip them, because there are no exams, there are no multiple choice questions which are dedicated to the primers. But basically start with mathematics for machine learning, which is, some of the backgrounds in calculus, linear algebra, geometry, matrix decompositions, vectors, probability theory, and optimization theory. We then move on to financial derivatives and risk. So there is a primer on financial derivatives and risk. Basically, we explain how to price options using some of the vanilla models, such as Black-Scholes, and also how to use libraries such as quantitative. We have a similar primer on algorithmic trading. We explain how algorithmic trading works. And yes, you can skip the primers. There is a question from Mohammed, can we skip some of the primers? You can, yeah, basically you don't have to go through all the primers. Python for data science and AI, and advanced Python. So the first part of Python is about how to code in Python, how to use Jupyter algorithms, some basic data structures, lists, dictionaries, sets, and so on. The second primer on Python, advanced Python techniques, we'll talk about how to make your Python fast, how to vectorize stuff using NumPy, how to use Python and C types, how to, for example, speed things up using Number, and how to use some other more advanced Python techniques, such as, for instance, object-oriented programming. And that's all about the primers. So if you have any questions about the primers, so you should be able to, at this point, either ask in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves and you can ask Abir and myself questions if you have questions. You can ask them in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves. There was one question from Mohammed, which I have already answered. That's whether you can skip the primers. Any other questions?
I can add maybe something here, so Paul. So once you start to the course, so you can post your questions throughout the week through our forum. So we've got a platform for that. And of course, one of the faculty team will address your questions.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we'll go into a description of the overall course structure. Okay, so we see, okay, perfectly clear so far for Module 1. Okay, so Module 1 is about supervised learning. There are 4 lectures in Module 1. We start with linear regression and regularization, proceed to ensemble methods, kernel methods, and then Bayesian modeling. So this is your kind of staple set of techniques. This is what you use in day-to-day scientific work. So this is your baseline set of methods. It doesn't mean that they will always produce amazing results, but regularized regression is pretty useful. It's probably the most useful thing to know in statistical analysis. So this is not yet deep learning. So if we can perhaps move on to Module 2, nonetheless, it's not a lot of people can extract the value from data using even regression, because it's a seemingly simple technique, but there are numerous books on the subject, such as, for example, Regression and Other Stories, which will show you that, in fact, there are a lot of different tricks that you may need to use to make good use of data with linear regression. In Module 2, we proceed to deep learning. And it's at this point that we introduce neural nets. In Lecture 5, we explain how to train those neural nets. In Lecture 6, using backpropagation. And then we start looking at examples of neural networks in banking and finance, And we invite some of the experts who develop these techniques. So, for example, Blanca Horvath is well known for developing deep learning volatility. That's her paper from, I think, 2022 in quantitative finance. And it did take quite a few, basically, years before it reached quantitative finance. It was a preprint on archive for a while before that, and it actually triggered an entire new area in quantitative finance when people started building these deep learning volatility models and using neural nets to price derivatives. So module 3 is about unsupervised learning and alternative data. Unsupervised learning is basically, how do I find latent structure in my data? How do I uncover this latent structure? And alternative data is using unusual data sets, perhaps, sort of information about car traffic or satellite images, or perhaps balance sheets of companies and so on. And this is the module where we introduce this stuff. So we introduce some of the most useful unsupervised learning techniques, such as dimensionality reduction, PCA, various clustering methods, and so on. We show how to go from PCA to autoencoders. And I think Saeed Aman teaches alternative data, and he is one of the best inflation forecasters in the world, and works for a firm called, he actually sorry, I mean, I'm quite glad that I cannot infect you with my cough, because it's a remote lecture. So I mean, you can see that not only are we knowledgeable in ML and AI, we're also considerate. So you will see that we after that go into alternative data, and Saeed Aman, he co-founded Turnleaf Analytics. He produces the best inflation forecasts using all sorts of data. So you will be talking to the right person as far as alternative data is concerned. And so then we move on to module 4. And this is the kind of stuff that you need to know if you're practitioners and if you want to actually really get this to work. We look at the kind of hardware that you may end up using, such as GPUs, perhaps FPGAs, although FPGAs are less frequently used. We look at how to make your analysis reproducible, how to deploy them in a production environment, and then how to improve your feature engineering and how to tune your models. And there is a lecture usually given by Savine and Huge, who invented differential machine learning, provided they're available in that particular year to give this lecture, or in that particular cohort to give this lecture. Otherwise, it's given by another member of the faculty on differential machine learning, and that's an advanced technique of machine learning that demonstrates how to apply it to price derivatives. So that's module 4, and then we move on to module 5, which is reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning, before there was this fashion in LLMs, before people started talking to LLMs. I probably talk to LLMs a lot more nowadays than I talk to people. And in fact, I discuss with LLMs, my papers and so on. And they certainly passed the Turing test now. Right, so, and that's now the biggest thing. But before that became the biggest thing, it was reinforcement learning, starting from maybe 2010-ish. And this is where we teach reinforcement learning, because these are still the optimal algorithms, such as SARSA and Q-learning, which can be used for a bunch of things, such as market making, wealth management, and optimal order execution. And after this, module 5, we move on to module 6. And this is all about time series. It's taught by time series experts. And it includes some of the advanced techniques, such as time series signatures. And we know that time series, financial time series, can be quite problematic from the technical standpoint for many reasons, including the very low signal to noise ratio, but also non-stationarity, because financial data is known to be non-stationary. And this is what you encounter in Module 6. We look at financial time series and non-standard techniques, and basically then we look at a few real-world examples, and we move on to time series signatures. And that's going to be at lecture 24 already. After lecture 24, we move on to how to train LLMs in quant finance. We'll look at GPT-3, so these are very topical nowadays. We look at deep learning for text. We look at some foundational NLP models. We look at attention, transformers, and BERT. And we also look at how this generative AI, how it works in general. We also look at variational autoencoders and GANs, and we also see how neural nets can be used to generate not just text, but data in the lecture Data-Driven Market Simulator for small data environments. Again, this is something that was invented by Blanca Horvath and her colleagues, and usually this lecture is also delivered by Blanca. That's Module 7. After that, Module 8, that's a complete state-of-the-art. So if you are into things like the Schrödinger cat, you can basically, if necessary, create cats which are neither fully dead nor fully alive. And this is, there are very few people who teach this kind of advanced financial technique. And we do this kind of thing. So I would like to confirm that no cats were actually harmed during the teaching of Module 8. These are all, apart from those which come from various thought experiments. And but there is, nothing ethically wrong with perhaps zombifying these hypothetical cats. But I mean, more seriously, on the quantum computing front, there are already quantum computers. You can gain access to these quantum computers via various clouds. There is still this global competition which is ongoing as to who can gain the greatest number of qubits, but also, have access to qubits of high quality, meaning that the level of noise in the quantum computer is kept relatively low. And once you kind of understand the foundations of quantum computing, which is taught as part of lecture 32, Introduction to Quantum Computing, then you proceed to variational circuits as machine learning methods. Variational circuits is one of the approaches to quantum networks. And then we basically start regarding very much along the line of Schultz thinking, quantum models as kernel methods. And then we look at potential quantum advantages, how these techniques can give you something that ordinary non-quantum, classical non-quantum techniques do not typically give you. And the entire Module 8 is taught by Antoine-Jacques Jacquier. And this is where hopefully you will find it both interesting and intellectually satisfying, because he wrote, along with Alexei Kondratiev, he wrote I think the only book on financial quantum machine learning. And again, you're welcome to ask. This is basically this is lecture 35, and that's the end of the program when you have to do your exam, but you also have a project to complete. Your projects are graded in a similar manner to master's projects, although perhaps they don't necessarily have to be of the same scope as master's projects, and they do not necessarily have to be immediately publishable, although they could in principle be publishable. We encourage you to make them publishable if you can, and if you have the time and resources to dedicate to that endeavor. Any questions on this? So we have questions. What about classification ML? Now, classification ML is treated alongside other techniques, right? There are some tricks that you can use in classification, such as meta labeling, but classification is certainly delivered alongside the techniques, because as you know, you can have, for example, the random forest a regressor, but you can also have a random forest classifier. Logistic regression, yes, that will be covered as well, and that is covered alongside regression. KNN, K nearest neighbors, that is seen as an unsupervised learning technique, and that is covered in module 2 on unsupervised learning. Decision trees, these are treated alongside the ensemble methods. Support vector machines. There used to be a dedicated lecture on support vector machines. I mean, they were initially very popular, these techniques, but then they have somewhat fallen out of favor, especially among practitioners. They're still kind of liked by academics. So support vector machines are treated in lecture 34 on quantum models as kernel method. And so support vector machines are regarded in that lecture, kernel methods, because support vector machines are your canonical kernel methods, and we actually look at those things in the context of quantum machine learning. Machine learning on the cloud, that is treated in the module for practitioners, which I believe is module 4, right? And this is where you actually look at the cloud computing, among other things, but also you look at how to speed up your machine learning workflows. So I hope that, Mohammed, that answers your question. Then we have a question from Raj. In terms of material, will we be provided books? So usually you are provided a copy of my book, jointly written with Matthew Dixon and Igor Halperin. So it's the Dixon-Halperin-Billiken book on machine learning in finance. It's a Springer book, and we usually provide those to our students. So we usually order those for you. That doesn't mean that you should only read that book. It's a very comprehensive book, but there are things that it doesn't cover. It doesn't cover, for example, quantum machine learning, because financial quantum machine learning wasn't that popular. Well, it didn't really exist when we were writing that book. Okay, any other questions?
Maybe I can add something here. So anyway, to further enhance your understanding and implementation, so we usually provide additional resources such as articles and libraries.
And individual lecturers, such as Abir, will be welcome to, recommend their own resources, right, and including their own papers and so on, or textbooks.
Yeah, maybe I'd like to add something about the FINE project, because I'm in charge of FINE project. So the FINE project allows you to apply everything you have learned to a specific problem, to demonstrate your ability to design and implement machine learning models in a financial context. So we encourage you to choose a FINE project topic that aligns with your skills and interests. But of course, if you need help finding a specific subject, so we are pleased to offer an extensive range of innovative project topics to choose from. So of course, we are here to support your learning journey. So we provide options that motivate and challenge you.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no further questions at this point in time, and again, I'm just reminding everyone that you can unmute yourselves and ask questions in voice mode. But if there are no further questions right now, we'll give you maybe 5 more seconds. Okay, there is a question. Will we be assigned a mentor for a project? There is no formal supervisor for projects, but you may, for example, choose a member of staff that may perhaps recommend, a faculty member that may recommend, maybe you want to kind of work along the lines of something that, for example, Abir is teaching. Maybe you want to extend her paper on applying deep learning to the Heston model or something like that. Maybe that's what your project wants to be. So now Abir looks after all the all the projects, but maybe say you want to work specifically on that. Then at Abir's discretion, and again, our members of staff are very busy with other things, but at Abir's discretion, if she does agree to provide 1 or 2 sessions with you where she can go through the stuff, then that would work. But this is at the discretion of the specific member of staff. There is no project supervision. We do not really offer project supervision in the sense that you would get, for example, in the master's program, simply because the projects are shorter and we don't necessarily have the same scope for having formal project supervision at that point. So does it have to be presented to a panel? No. Okay, so there is no viva as such, if that's what you are asking. It's just you basically write your report, you zip up your code and you send it to the faculty, and Abir will basically coordinate the marking of your project. Usually there will be 2 people marking your project. Okay, then you have 1 capstone per module, 1 final capstone for the program. By capstone, I presume you mean an exam, and that is a multiple choice question exam. So that is correct. So there are module tests and there is a final exam, and they're all in the format of multiple choice questions. And any further questions, you guys? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to ask whatever questions you have on this material. So starting now. Okay, here is another question. Capstone project, the code. 1 capstone per module, 1 final capstone for the program. There is no project. No, there is just 1 project per course. There are assignments, but they're not really marked. They're not really marked. The module assignments are not marked. You then select a topic at the end of the entire program. You select a topic, and then you write a report which consists of the code and also a report and for that topic that of your choice.
I think it's important. I think it's important also to mention that the MLI forum is very actively used, and it's not just used. You know, it's used for support. So this is basically the faculty support. You can put your questions to them via the forum. You can also get support with your project via the forum. You can also share ideas. You can share news stories with people from around the world who are studying on this program. It's an amazing tool, really. And I think for the final projects, the objective really is to implement everything that you've learned on the MLI program to the project. So you apply everything to the final project, and you can do this on your own. I mean, that's really, the whole idea is to be able to do this independently, but with as much faculty support as you need. Okay, so it is without a doubt there, and it is used. I think it's important. So in order to cement your understanding of whatever topic that it is that you're focusing on for the project, then we'll help you to cement your understanding in whatever way we possibly can. I just want to say also, thank you very much, Abir and Paul, for taking us through the syllabus. It's great to see Paul with a cold and a cough, and as you can see, even with those disadvantages, he keeps things extremely simple in a very, very complex topic area such as machine learning. Okay, he keeps it very, very simple, and I think the way he described each of the modules and how the syllabus is broken down, it was described very simply. That's how he teaches, and it's how a lot of the faculty teach, because they've written a ridiculous amount of content on their own areas of expertise. So they're very, very eloquent, and hopefully that will help your understanding of all the topic areas within machine learning. There's another question that's come through. Paul, is it one LMS for all WBS MLI Okay.
I mean, so I think, Jeff, you and I can both answer this, but basically, yes, that's correct. That's education at education.wbs. Was it just a second? It's education.wbstraining.com. But
yes.
You don't necessarily have access to everything on it. For example, you don't have access to the quantitative developer certificate, which is a separate program, right? But you do have access to all things MLI related. So that's one website. And you also have forums precisely there. I think that in the interest of time, we will kind of close this section now, the discussion of the material, and it's now really over to Jeff, so that if and any further questions we can answer at the end.
Just I'd like to add something maybe to practice exams. So we would provide a mock test. So it includes a set of practice questions to help you prepare for the exam format and the type of questions you might encounter. And of course, additional resources such as reading problem sets are also available on the course website.
Super, that's great. Echoing what Mohammed has written in the chat. Great stuff. Thanks very much, Abir. Thanks very much, Paul. So the study partner program is for those of you who like to have a study buddy, either from your organization, if there is somebody from your organization who is studying this, or somebody from your country or region, or somebody working in a similar role to yourself. In fact, there is a fourth option, which is somebody working in a role that you want to move into. I think so if you do want to study with somebody else, if you prefer the company of another person to share your ideas with, then that is always available, and we encourage it as well. So that's a great aspect of this program. The help desk is the MLI forum, which I've described briefly. It is comprehensive. We say that your questions take 24 hours for faculty to get back to you. It's actually much more prompt than that in the vast majority of cases. It's very prompt indeed, because we do have people studying this from all over the world. So we have to account for the different time zones, and so the responses are very, very quick. So the MLI Employment Service is something that I look after. I used to look after this for the best part of almost a decade for the CQF program. It's very comprehensive, this service. It is specifically for self-funded delegates, for obvious reasons, because if you're being sponsored by your employer to study the MLI program, the last thing they want is for us to help you to move to a different organization. I don't think that would be very ethical. So this is very specifically for those who are 100% self-funded. Our network of contacts is vast for this. My network of contacts is pretty enormous, from the background I have just in general with the quant finance background that I have, but also we leverage off the faculty and we leverage off MLI alumni as well. So to give you an example, there's two examples. There was somebody from Colombia who wanted to move to Poland. So he wanted help finding a job in Poland. So we found him, we got him an interview with a Dutch bank who have a fairly sizable branch in Poland. The interview went very well, but they wanted him to do a role that was something a little bit different than the role that he was looking for. So he came back to us and he said, look, do you have any other roles, in the UK or in Europe? So we got in touch with a lot of contacts in the UK and Europe, and he subsequently had interviews in the UK and Europe, and he's still undergoing those. There's another person, these are the most recent examples. There's a lady who completed the MLI program. She got the distinction, based in New York, and she wanted a role in New York or in America so long as it was a remote role. If it was in New York, then she was happy, obviously, to work in an office. And we got her a bunch of interviews. So literally multiple interviews. You know, this is one of the most satisfying parts of my role, is being able to help somebody who's graduated from the program get a job. It is hard nowadays, and one of the things that, you know, we do have, we do give some guidance with regards to getting a role. For example, we start off with your CV, because you probably noticed, you know, if you search for roles on LinkedIn, you can have an enormous amount of people going up for the same role. It can be 10, 20, 50, even over 100. So the very first thing that we focus on is your CV, and we need to make sure that it is structured very well, that the format, you need to be ahead of the field. Okay, so you need to be better than all the other CVs that are being reviewed by the HR recruitment officer or the line manager. And the way to do that is to make sure that it is written very well. It's to make sure that the format is clear and enticing to read. And in particular, to make sure that the opening paragraph is related to the job spec and also emphasizes your strengths, but in a concise way. Just one paragraph, but it needs to be very well written and concisely written. And it needs to grab the attention of whoever is reading all of these CVs. That's the first step. The next step is the interview process. So if you get an interview, you need to make sure you'll only receive the job spec. You need to find out how the role fits into the desk or the division. So what the function of the role is within that desk or division, what the division's function is within the organization as a whole, what the organization's strategies are, what their objectives are to meet those strategies, who their competitors are. You need to do as much reading and research as possible. And by that, I mean more than the other 4 or 5 candidates that they might be interviewing for this role. You need to be ahead of them. And the more work and research that you do, the more spontaneous the interview will be. The more questions will pop up in your own mind during the course of the interview. The more questions will pop up before the interview. And this will prepare you to be very genuine about actually finding out what this role is about. Not just asking questions for the sake of impressing the interview panel. You want to know what this role is about. And if you can, make space for the possibility of you rejecting the role, because the last thing that you want to do is join a company doing a role that doesn't necessarily suit you. So you're going to be miserable in that role. That's the last thing that you want. So, you know, the other thing is to make sure that you go after a role that you're actually going to enjoy. And then you want to find out what your boss is going to be like. And the interview process is not only for the interviewer, for the desk head to find out what you're like, but also what he or she is, what he or she is like. You know, whether they are, again, the last thing that you want is to work for a boss that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with. You know, most of us have been in that position, and it is extremely unpleasant. So these are key things. The other thing that we help you with is what we would advise you to do is to contact somebody, to look through LinkedIn and look for people who have the same title as the role that you're going for. You then come back to us with a list of names that you would like to contact. And we should be able to provide you with phone numbers of those people on LinkedIn. If you've come up with 10 people on LinkedIn who, some of whom you would like to get in touch with, hopefully we can provide you with 2 or 3 phone numbers due to a subscription with a couple of companies that enable us to do that. And that's really important. And then you phone them up and you be as honest as you possibly can. You say that you're up for a role, the same title as the role that they're currently doing. Would you mind sparing just a couple of minutes of your time so that I can find out what this role consists of, to give me a better opportunity of securing the role, the role that I'm interviewing for. And, they love talking about their jobs. So in most cases, they will give you their time. And if they don't, there's hundreds of others doing the same role. So you can move on to the next person. You move on to the next 10 people and you send us the list and we'll provide you with the telephone numbers that we can provide you with. That way you get as much information and as much understanding as you can about the role that you're interviewing for. Similarly, it's worth contacting desk heads within which that role, who have responsibility for members of their team who are doing the same role as the one that you're interviewing for. This is really important. And again, they will not usually, in most cases, they will not have become the head of a division or the head of a desk without helping other people along the way. That's usually the way to promotion, is you help other people, you give people time. So the chances are you call up a desk head and you say, look, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I'm going up for this role as a machine learning specialist. Or it can be a more specific area than that, and you ask for their time and you be as honest as you possibly can with them. I know you're very busy, but would you mind just sparing 2 minutes of your time to let me know what are the characteristics that I would need if I'm doing this role to make me as good at this job as possible? Who is your best machine learning specialist and why are they the best? And they'll be happy to talk about this. This is their job. They love talking about this. So these are the kind of things that we do as part of the role of the employment service to help you as much as possible get the job that you're going for. So I hope this gives you a kind of a taste of what we try to do to help you out. Okay. So this is the Q&A session. Any questions that you have about any aspect, either of the program, the details of the syllabus, or any of the more administrative aspects of the program, or the financial aspects of the program in terms of the cost of the program, or the employment service, anything you want, now's the time to ask. Okay, superb. So, Mohammed, thanks very much. That is very kind of you indeed. You have a nice weekend too, although we've still got Friday ahead of us. But that's cool. I've sent all my inquiries one-to-one by email. Superb. Yeah, I know. Okay, fantastic. Thanks very much, Mohammed. Any other questions? We'll give you a few more seconds. We'll give you a few more seconds to ask any questions. And if you don't have any now, that's fine. If any questions pop up in the coming days, in the coming weeks prior to the start of the program, then you can come through to me. Let me put my email address in case you haven't got it. Okay, superb. Well, look, I hope that you've got a feel for what this program is actually about. I really do, and that's the objective of running these information sessions. Do as much research as you possibly can. Come through to us with any questions so that you get a really strong sense of what you're heading into. 7 months of hopefully very enjoyable studies, which will provide you with a lot of knowledge and skill sets in this domain. And thanks very much also, Paul, Abir. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Very.
And I think we'll end it there. We'll end it there. And thanks a lot for attending, everyone. And hopefully
Thanks,
see you
Jeff.
soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Abir.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.